Okay, so personally, I've always been really curious about what all goes down in the studio when they're recording an anime, right? I mean, I'm sure you have too. And it just so happens that my guest, Shannon Emerick, has had roles in notable series, i.e., Is It Wrong to Pick Up Girls in the Dungeon, Chivalry of the Failed Knight, Akame ga Kill, just to name a few. And she's going to come on and talk to us more about questions that we all have. So let's get right to it, shall we? Let's bring her on. All right. Hi, Shannon. Thank you for joining. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. It's so great to meet you.
Yes, absolutely. I feel like I'm interviewing somebody who's famous, and I'm trying to keep my composure. I'm trying to keep my composure under wraps.
No, not at all.
It's just so cool. And so I just want to let you know that I did, I have loads of questions for you, but I actually did a little bit of a survey amongst people that I know. Just, hey, what would you ask Shannon? What would you ask Shannon, just to see if there's anything that I was missing? So a lot of the questions I have for you are the majority of the people I talk to, they want to know this about you. And
Okay.
So do I. So we'll just jump right into the first question. And I think it's the most basic one, obviously. It's just to tell me about when and how you began your career in voice acting.
I began my career in voice acting, let's see, probably 2004, so about 16 years ago. I've been a professional actor for 25 years at this point, mostly stage before that, and still a lot of stage after that, but the voice component came in about 16 years ago.
Wow. Okay. So when you say that you were you were first a stage actor and then you got into voice acting, how did that happen for you in your mind? What made you think to do that?
Well, two things happened. One is when I moved, so I lived in New York for 6 years, in Manhattan, and pretty much did theater there, did a little bit of film and television, but straight theater, and then moved back to Houston in '03. And when I moved back, I was still very connected to the theater scene, but I was lucky enough to get an agent for film and television work, some voiceover. But then I was also told, I learned from some actor friends about what was then called ADV films, which was, it just so happened that one of the world's largest English dub studios for anime was here in Houston, Texas. And at the time, things were booming, and it took me about 10 months to get an audition with them. But they were wonderful. And then I was lucky enough to get cast in something, and then it kind of snowballed from there. And for a while, I had friends, there are a lot of friends who are much more well-known than I am in the biz, who that was really their primary income. There was so much work, and for me it was a really nice secondary income, which was fantastic, and I loved it. Voiceover work, and this goes for even voiceover that you would do for radio or a television commercial or anything like that, but of course you can be anybody, which you can't do when you're seen. And then especially with anime, the characters are all over the map. And so I definitely have my niche that I've sort of fit into over the years, but even within that niche, there's still so much. And I fell in love with it. And it's, the people that I've gotten to work with over the years, the directors and the engineers have all been amazing. And I just have a ball every time I feel really lucky every time I get to go do it. So. Yeah.
That's awesome. It's very rare when people find what they feel like they're meant to do, and it brings so much joy to them.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. It's not. Sometimes you just kind of happen upon it, and I think that's the best kind. So what is the process like for you for voice acting? For example, do you record, but pre-COVID obviously, but did you record at the same time others did in the studio?
No, we have always been solo. That has always been the process. And that's another, I mean, I still do and still absolutely love stage work and always will. And that is one thing that's very different about particularly anime, is you're really helping tell this whole story, but it's just you. And so I've never, I don't think ever, maybe once, but we weren't even in the same booth, but in general, it's always solo. So if you're the first one recording, you're not listening to anybody else but the Japanese in your ear while you're doing it. Now, if other people have, if you're spread out over some time, other people have gotten in there. And so it's pretty fun because you get to know people's voices and you're like, is that so-and-so? And the director's like, yeah. And so you can hear each other. So sometimes I can hear them, but I can't see them or be live with them. So it's just me in there. But once you kind of get in the groove of it, it really works. And you still feel connected to the story and to the other actors. It's just not face to face.
I see. So that actually sounds kind of difficult. So the way I imagine it in my head is you have your script and you're by yourself, but you have headphones on listening for when your part is. Right. But what is, because I know nothing about this. So are you reading, what's your script? Is it has someone made you the script and you're following that, or?
So in the old days, we used paper. We had mountains of paper scripts, and you wouldn't have it in advance. You just get it when you get in there. And so I certainly credit my anime work. My cold readings have gotten a lot better over the years when I've gone to other auditions, because you don't know in advance what you're doing. So you just show up and they give you the script. Back in the old days, like I said, it was paper. You'd have the script in front of you on paper. You'd have the animation on the screen, and then in your ear, you're hearing, in the headphones, you're hearing the Japanese dub, or if any English has been dubbed. And through the glass are your director and your engineer. It's been a while now. We moved to digital, fully digital, which is a huge improvement and saves a lot of trees. And so now we have a split screen in front of us when we record. You'll have the script on one side, the animation on the other, and your director is moving the script along as you go. Sometimes you go line by line. Sometimes, if you're able to get in a groove, and this is a way I love to do it, you can do big passages all at once, and then kind of go back, and of course you have to match everything up, and maybe a line didn't work, or maybe there was a weird sound in your throat, or maybe the translation had too many syllables in it and you need to adjust that, that kind of thing. But it doesn't feel lonely at all, and it takes a while to kind of learn the practice of it, and learning how to do the Foleys, make all the different sounds that you have to make and things like that. But once you kind of get it in your bones, then even if it's a while between gigs, once you hop back in the booth, you're right there, ready to go. So
right there, ready to go. Yeah. So that's a good question, is how do you prepare your throat, and what techniques do you use to make sure that you're ready for top performance?
Well, you always bring water with you, lots of water. And that may sound obvious, but especially with something you're recording with a mic so close up, it picks every sound up. And so the slightest little gurgle or scratchiness or whatever, if it's in the morning and you still have morning grogginess back there. So you often have to clear your throat, not just physically, but also with water, but also just keeping your vocal cords lubricated, obviously. I know that's not rocket science, but the big thing you really have to watch out for is if there's a lot of screaming, if there are a lot of fights that you're doing sounds for, or lots of, terror, as there is wont to be in anime, or just screaming for joy. You have to be careful just to protect it and not kind of blow it out. The other thing is how long you record at a time. I probably a couple of times done like an 8-hour day, but I know I have friends and colleagues who do 8-hour days all the time. That gets really long, about 4 hours, 4 or 5 hours, and I really start to feel it. So you just have to your voice just gets really tired, and it sounds, oh, my voice is tired. But it actually, I mean, that's the biggest muscle you're using when you're doing this job. So it actually does happen. So you just have to be careful of it, not to press it too hard.
Right.
And when you do scream, support it well. And then when you're out of the studio, if you know you're going back the next day, just be good to it because you're going to need it.
So I've looked at, a lot of your characters. You've done upwards of 80 different characters.
Yeah.
A lot of male, some female. If you can explain this, I don't know if you can, but how do you differentiate your voices so well to make them sound male versus female, right? Do you have in your plethora of voices? How does that work?
Well, so the niche I was talking about earlier is what you're hitting on now, which is that for anime, my voice pitches best for like the 8 to 12-year-old boy. So I sort of do the little boy voices. The Japanese little girl voices tend to pitch very, very high, and I don't have that gift to send mine that high. And there are certainly there are obviously women in anime too. So I have played adult women, but mostly what I play are the little boy voices. And if the character is large enough, you're pretty much only doing that one character in a series. If you're doing just a bunch of small voices here and there, then you just have to. Usually they're great and they let you record all the way through with one character and then switch and go back to the beginning and do all the way through with another character so that you're not having to literally bounce back and forth between voices. For me, a lot of it is in my physical stance. I prefer to stand when I'm recording because my energy is better when I'm up and I'm gesturing in the booth and I'm doing because when it's in my body, then that's going to get reflected in my voice. So I have kind of different things that I do for the different vocal qualities I need, or for the emotions that I need for certain scenes. So that's kind of the best way to describe, I guess, how I do that.
Okay, that's very interesting. It makes sense. When you stand, you feel more, access to your diaphragm and your muscles there. So it is. I've watched several videos of Japanese voice actors, and they use their whole body. It's the whole neck. It's all the muscles here. It's everything. It's a full-blown, head to toe ordeal. It looks very strenuous. Very hard.
Well, it actually can. I mean, again, it's so strenuous, but it actually can. I'm pretty tired. If I've been in the booth for 4 hours up on my feet, exerting and emoting, I come out of there and I'm a little beat. But it's kind of, it's similar to me when I'm doing a play. I tend to learn it much better when I'm up and on my feet and I can get the lines in my body and things like that. It just connects me to the whole process a little better. And it's interesting because I'm a very text-based actor. Like, give me the words. That's what I'm not a kind of touchy-feely, like, let's be an ice cream cone kind of actor. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just not my style. But I do need to be in my body. What I'm doing needs to be rooted in my body if it's going to have any authenticity to it. And so that definitely translates for anime so that because I can't show you on my face what I'm feeling. So it all has to come from here. So the more I can do to simulate what that would normally be like, the more it'll come through vocally.
Sure, that makes sense, 100%. So we talked earlier a little bit about the heavy emotions that can oftentimes happen in anime, very dramatic sort of seeming.
Yeah.
So what happens to you emotionally when you have to do things like crying or screaming? I'm always imagining the voice actors actually crying when they're crying.
And you have the luxury because your face isn't being seen, that if you can capture that vocal quality without getting all the way to tears, then it will still read authentically. So very rarely have I sort of needed to go all the way to tears, to physical tears, because I could channel the emotion in a way and alter my speech pattern in a way that it would resonate in my voice. But I think the biggest thing that comes is if you have a lead in a show, and you've spent weeks, and many, many hours living through these characters' little lives, especially if they're characters you like. You get to the end of it and there's kind of a sense of loss. There's a sense of like, wow, this is the end of this thing we did. And that's happened to me probably twice. One of them I got very emotional on, just me, Shannon, because you do develop, and it depends on the nature of the story, obviously. If it's pretty much just a goofy thing, or if it's totally beyond reason, as can often happen in anime, you just go with it and have a great time and hope that translates. But if it's a more deeply rooted emotional story, that can really come through. And so, it becomes similar. I mean, you have to, when you're going to scream, when you're in a fight, when you're, or if you're being attacked, or, whatever, by a monster, or, whatever is happening in the anime world, there tends to have to be that, there is sort of an acting it out kind of thing in the booth. I mean, I'm not running around inside the booth or anything like that, but just physically, what would I be, so that I can get my voice to go to those places. And then for the heavy emotional stuff, there's not often a ton of sobbing, and the trend that I've noticed with the animes I've done is often the sobbing is then taken to really cartoonish proportions. They become, that kind of thing, as opposed to like a really genuine, every now and again you'll get a really genuine cry. But usually, so then you don't really feel emotionally depleted because you've just been told to be like Scooby-Doo big, with something like that. So it just, it really depends on the scene, but it is, I think you're right, and it is a much more physical job than people might realize, and every actor is different too. I know actors who can sit and have their mind on something else and just make it all happen too. I mean, everybody kind of finds their own groove. For me, I'm pretty physical with it.
What an amazing talent to be able to do that. And it's such a connection between your brain and your throat and everything. You have to be fully conscientious at all times.
Right.
Wow.
Keeps you on your toes.
Sure, absolutely. So do you have a favorite character that you have played before?
I do, and it's not the favorite character that most of my fans seem to have, but it's a very, I don't think it went very far here in the U.S., but there's a series called The Little Busters, and I played Riki, the lead little boy in the series, and I just loved it. It was just a marvelous story about this little group of friends, and it was very innocuous, very innocent, and they had all kinds of adventures. They went through a lot of ups and downs emotionally, some losses, a lot of joys, definitely some silliness, but I absolutely loved it. And that's the one when we got to the end of it where I was just like, I'm gonna miss these people, and I've really connected to this little group, and it had kind of a bittersweet ending, and so you just thought, oh wow. So Little Busters is probably my favorite.
Okay.
There's one that's also not as well known from years ago, earlier on in my career, called The Mythical Detective Loki Ragnarok. And I played Loki, so what had happened is this Norse god had been trapped in the form of a little boy. So he was kind of this smart aleck, irritated little boy because he was this god who had been sent back and had to solve these mysteries before he could get released from this little human prison. And that was great fun to record years ago. But and then I must say, I grew up with Hello Kitty, and the very first anime gig I ever booked was a Hello Kitty, and I was over the moon, and I did not play Hello Kitty herself, but I got to play a couple of evil queens in those. They were the fairy tale Hello Kitty series that came out. So I played the Snow Queen in one and the Wicked Stepmother in the Snow White version of Hello Kitty. So those are probably my my very favorites from over the years, but I've definitely played a lot of characters I really love.
Wow, those are all really great. I actually did watch a few minutes of Little Busters the other day just to see, just to hear more of your voice. And, I love anime like that where the main character has this sort of innocence about him.
Mm-hmm.
And, he's got so many vivacious friends and it just looked like so much fun. That anime
It was. Oh, it was tons of fun. We had a ball doing that series.
Did you ever meet the other voice actors who were doing, the other boys and the other girls in that one?
A lot of them I knew already. We all kind of get to know each. Some I know in person, but a lot I just know vocally and through social media. So there was definitely something of a sense of camaraderie, but mainly it was just with the characters, getting attached to these little guys and their life journeys, and so it was fun.
So Shannon, I know you know about this, but there's this somewhat negative connotation around dubbed anime versus subbed anime, and it's unfortunate because it's often talked about in this, the anime elitist people who just die hard anime fans like myself. But there is this stigma behind, oh, you watch dubbed, don't do that. Watch and subbed for sure. Do you ever experience that negativity personally?
I don't, because I have, please know, not out of arrogance, please know that it's not out of arrogance, but I have kept myself somewhat removed from, I haven't gone to conventions, I don't interact a lot with fans or people with issues in the anime world. Everyone is totally entitled to their opinions, and I am also very grateful for the people who enjoy my voice. That is awesome to me. I sort of feel like, what, really, why? But because I have kind of intentionally distanced myself, mainly because I have a child, and it's just not an area I was interested in kind of jumping into. I haven't experienced a lot of that. I know I do know, and I have a great respect for the field of anime itself, the genre of anime, and the devotion that a ton of people thankfully have to it, and take it very seriously. And you can tell, you really can start to appreciate the artistry, of course, in the animation design and the music, everything that goes into it. And people do take it. Of course, it's like anything we're passionate about. Get my son going on Star Wars, and it's the same kind of thing. So I would just urge people to do what speaks to you, and it's making some people happy, and I don't think it's hurting anybody. So if dubbed isn't your thing, no worries. You stick with dubbed, and we're really grateful as artists that it provides a work and a lot of joy for a lot of people. And I'm not blowing smoke there. That's literally part of the process is, are we staying true to this? And sometimes, being able to hear the Japanese actor's voice guides me, well, a lot of times, and guides me and dictates what this moment is supposed to be about. And so you're never just watching the animation. It's always about the script, the actor who's already recorded, the sensibility of the moment, the animation, all put together. So, for those out there who aren't as big dubbed fans, I totally get it, and it may not seem as authentic, but we do our very best to honor the original creation.
Do you ever work with the Japanese voice actor on your roles? No, you don't ever get to speak with them?
No, and you usually don't even get to connect with, if the creators are in or the Japanese producers. Maybe once or twice over my career have I done that. But no, it's always been completely separate. And frankly, by the time we get it over here to dub, they've moved on to whatever their next project is. So no, it's totally separate.
Okay, I gotcha. Okay, so when you tell people what you do, Shannon, what kind of reactions do you get?
Well, because being an anime actor is part of my acting career, and I do have other parts to it. But usually when people find out that I do anime, they think it's really cool. They're like, they want to know more about it. They want to know, even if they aren't anime fans, they love the idea of it, and they think it sounds like a lot of fun. So I've been very fortunate to, when I share the stories with people, they get a big kick out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So how does a voice actor or voice actress, how do they advance in this field, right? What milestones must they have to hit to get bigger roles in anime, or, what challenges does that entail?
Honestly, it has to do with the business side of things as opposed to the artistry, which is often the case. Yes, in terms of the artistry, you have to get better. You have to get more familiar with what you do, more comfortable with it, be able to be more comfortable with your voice and doing different things, making all of those funky sounds. And you have to get really good at the recording process. You have to be able to move pretty quickly if you want to be given the responsibility of bigger roles, because time is money for them. So just kind of refining your technique, that would be the artistry side of the equation, to kind of moving up the rungs. But then the other is just the business side. How is the industry doing right now? How much work is available? It all depends on who's doing the casting. Is it solely up to the director, or is there a producer involved in casting? And is it a producer locally, or is it a producer, elsewhere? And how many people are kind of involved in the audition process? And then, you also just, a lot of it, there are people, I'm sure, at certain levels who only do large roles, but I also do teeny tiny roles. I'll get booked for an hour and come in and record 3 small parts, and and that's also a lot of fun. It's just different. So I think also being flexible and not being, I've been fortunate to have a lot of leads over the years, but I've also played a lot of tiny characters. And so, but every character you do, you kind of learn a little bit, you keep your muscles limber, and it can also just be an awful lot of fun. So I think not reaching a point where you say, you should absolutely do what honors your integrity and what you feel comfortable with. And each series can be different in that way, but there's nothing wrong with going in and just go for an hour, have some fun with some friends, stretch some different acting muscles, and then get paid and move on to the next thing. So yeah, that's, of course, there's no truly easy way. The voiceover business in general, not just anime, is very hard to break into. And I have not, and then on top of that, you have audiobook recording. You of course have the people who tend to do the movies and the big stuff, or the big cartoons, things like that. Then you've got TV commercial, radio commercial, that kind of thing. But it's, a lot of people want to do voiceover, so it's pretty, the industry is pretty flooded, and unless you're at like a super high level, I wish I knew how to break into that. But in terms of the anime world, just keeping at it, and there will be dry spells, but you'll find that your skills are still there when you go back. So as with anything in theater, in acting, you just have to really want it, because anything else is easier than being an artist. That's not true. That's not fair. But it is very hard, and so it has to be your true passion, to just say, I want to keep showing up.
Yeah. So that pretty much just answers my next question, which is, right, what tips would you give someone who really wanted to try their hand at it and get involved? Is there anything else that you would add to that, to somebody who just really wanted to
don't be shy about kind of reaching out to either wherever you live, local agents, or if there are recording studios in your area. I happen to be very lucky that there is one here. There aren't always, and of course a lot of stuff can be done remotely nowadays, but that means you have to have a really sharp home studio to be able to do it in. And that's a lot of equipment and a lot of money. But just keep putting yourself out there. If you feel like you need some vocal coaching to help you be stronger, go for that. If you don't spend money that you don't need to. But you know, I don't even know that it's really a matter of like needing to watch a lot of it or anything. It's getting your foot, like with anything, it's getting your foot in the door. And that will take you, that's the hardest part. Then you can go in and show them your stuff. You know, but just do research and don't expect to get responses right away and then get discouraged or get irritated if you don't hear back. That's something I really learned from my time in New York as a stage actor. I mean, you just, it's a full-time job to promote yourself, and you have to be willing. You should not expect that people will remember you necessarily. They have a lot of people in their head to keep in their heads, and so you do the hard work for them. You keep presenting yourself out there, and that would apply to any area as an actor. And don't be shy about that. Don't be shy about self-promotion. There's a way to do it respectfully, of course.
That's great advice. That's very great. I think with all that comes, you know, the lesson for everybody, for any other industry, just be persistent, be resilient, and be creative, and keep going from there.
That's right.
I just thought of this question, Shannon. Do you ever hear someone's voice when you're talking to someone and think to yourself, man, you would be a really great.
Oh, yeah.
Really great voice.
Oh, totally. Oh, yes. And I usually tell them, you know, and they usually know. They've usually been told that before. But, oh, yeah, you can. And it's been very flattering to have been asked over the years by my friends and colleagues at the studio here, you know, we're looking for some new voices. Do you have any people you'd recommend for, you know, and I'm always happy to put people up for auditions and things.
Shannon, that was my last question that I had for you. Needless to say, it seems like you love doing this, and I've listened to your stuff. You have tremendous talent, and it sounds so fun.
Well, thank you. I appreciate what you just said, and I appreciate you wanting to talk with me very much. It's fun to get to do it, and it makes me happy that people enjoy my work. And because because you are removed, you know, and it takes a while to come out and all of that. So it is really fun, and it's an honor to hear that people enjoy what you created. So thank you very much.
No, thank you. You have true fans. Thank you for joining.
Okay.
If you don't mind, I'd love to drop your biography link here so that people can go ahead and check you out. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
No worries at all. Okay. All right, have a good day.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for all your questions and helping me prepare to talk to Shannon, the lovely Shannon. I hope you guys learned a lot like I did. Otherwise, thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you next time.